Hi and good afternoon. It's a late afternoon, and I was witness to the very lively session on sustainability a little while back, and it's really important because these decisions and discussions are happening right now, and you know that organizations are working on things which are very important for both the Earth and the planet. So, having said that, this session is quite different, and it's quite a lively session. And you know that yesterday we heard Saloni talk about India as a growth market, and a lot of statistics there for how India is growing very fast. So growth is an obvious requirement and an obvious understanding in India, and you have to be growing. So there is no question about growth in India. There's no doubt about it. As per A.T. Kearney Global Retail Development Index, India is number 2 in GRDI as a destination for retail, even only after China. And this is 2021. So we are yet to see how 2022 shapes up. But really, what is important here is to understand that an economy which could be a retail economy which could be 2 trillion by 2032, physical retail growth which is 9.25% growth CAGR till 2032, and an e-commerce growth which is 23% CAGR till 2032. So these are huge dynamic numbers which are indeed not just what we are experiencing, but also the future for us in India. So this is what I have with me, a panel. And our panelists are all entrepreneurs, companies, businesses which have really set the traction for growth in India. And they will all agree that there are 4 reasons, key reasons that we can all say is that which is driving Indian retail growth. One is definitely our young population, where 50% are below 25. Second is indeed our digital and physical, which is really becoming our ability to connect with each of us here are integrated and are committed to digital and physical. The third being beyond the metros, which Saloni said yesterday, the huge amount of growth that we're seeing in smaller towns and cities, whether it's Siliguri, Guwahati, or Raipur. And last, and which is why we're here, is that this growth is being turbocharged by the bold Indian entrepreneur. And with that, I will start this session. I will first move to, as we're going along with no particular order actually, I will first move to Dhiraj yourself. You've become a very unique kind of entrepreneur as far as growth is concerned. And you call yourself a bootstrapped D2C company and built on business innovation, right? So for the room here, I would really like to understand from you how you kind of created this, and how you're growing this, built this, growing this, and what is that you bring to the table? Because I know I've read a lot about your innovations, but rather than me talking about it, I'd really like you to talk about it very quickly. Growth as a topic, business innovation as your expertise and as your entrepreneurial journey.
So we always say that one of the benefits that we had when we started Campus Sutra is the 4 of us who started the company, none of us come from fashion background, right? So in a way, we all had very clean slate, and we were there just to experiment, right? Thankfully, that was the time when e-commerce fashion was just starting in India, right? So there were no set practices, there were no, or there were offline guys who were trying to kind of, take the offline ideas and trying to kind of fit that in online. What we did at that point of time was start from scratch, and an industry. Oh, you're not able to hear me? Okay. What we were able to do in that industry was, work from scratch, understand how the fashion industry is working overall, and see how we can adapt that to online, right? And in that regard, there are about 3-4 innovations that we did that kind of, got us where we are today. One is with supply chain. So fashion industry, being an old industry, has a certain way of doing things, especially with the supply chain, right? And it hasn't changed. At least that's what we saw, that has not changed for 25, 30 years. But online required a very different way of approaching this. So we made about 85 changes to the supply chain, right? Of how basically a supply chain of a fashion brand typically works offline versus how we designed it. And that gave us 2-3 huge advantages. So just to kind of enumerate, our mind to market is 21 days. Usually this industry works at about 6 to 18 months of mind to market. So if I like the shirt that you guys are wearing, we'll be able to get it on the floor in 21 days. Our sell-through is about 98%. Usually the industry works at about 70-80% sell-through. and our inventory turn is about 45 days. So while these might seem very small, the kind of impact it has had on business and our ability to grow and do it profitably has been immense.
Deepak, so how do you really track it? I mean, these are huge numbers to talk about, and I'm sure everybody in the room would want to deliver 90%, 98% sell-through or 99. So what is that mechanism that you're able to track this and actually able to deliver this?
So what we did was, you cannot do this without technology. And especially when we started, now there is some technology that has got developed over the last 7, 8 years. When we started, it was non-existent, right? Whatever was then, the market was, I think, 10 years behind of where it used to be. We ended up developing a lot of it, right? So if, for example, if you have to predict what is the assortment that we have to create, we built a technology arm which is like a Google, right? Where you can just type in whatever data that you want and it will throw out numbers. So if we have a system where if you just type that, black t-shirt kitna bika, and we have 20 platforms, it gives you all that analysis and gives you ki in attributes may this t-shirt sold, or whatever sale that happened yesterday, what are the different attributes that are contributing to that sale, right? So that's the ability of technology, that's one. And second, how do you marry that to the back end, right? So ek to pata chal jata hai, but usually that conversion does not happen. So uska conversion ki, how does that information flow to the factory? How does it flow to the, to the fabric team? And how are you able to turn around the products? Even in terms of operations, I think when we started, operation was in a very, very nascent stage. So a lot of technology in terms of being able to, churn out the products in a D2C setup, we have built that. We dispatch about 25,000 orders a day, right? And all of this is powered by technology which has been developed in-house. So I think one of the main reasons that brands like Campus Sutra have come up is one, I think the innovation and the digital revolution. But second, I think technology being the backbone of driving the entire business.
Thanks, Dhiraj. And I think one of the themes here is that really building capabilities. And Dhiraj talked about supply chain and technology. And now I come to Darpan. You missed our session earlier. So Darpan is racing from one session to the other. I want to just catch him early before he races off another session. So Darpan, building capability. Kapsons is for the last 35 years built itself as a stalwart in Northern India retail. So when it comes to building capability, Darpan, how, with everything having changed, with digitization, technology, and everything having come in, and you've been a 35-year-old business, a traditional, and for all of us who come from traditional retail, we know the transition from traditional to, getting a grip of the modern consumer. So how challenging has growth been? Or how have you managed that growth with the new consumer and the new technology while keeping your strengths of traditional retail?
Okay. Being here in business from last 35 years, one thing we have understood in a very nice way and clear in our head, that if you are an offline retailer, don't try to become an online retailer. If you mix both the things, you will not excel in anything. If I think that I'll be able to compete and get traffic of Myntra, Amazon, and Flipkart, it can never happen with any brand, anyone. It's burning money. It's not making money. What we have done, we have modernized our stores. We have made our stores in such a way, they look smart, they look European, they look no more a traditional store. We upgraded our staff. We gave a better experience to the customer in the store. Not confusing the customer with, if you do not have this, and all those things. We kept our very firm on the ground that we are offline retailer, we will remain offline retailer, but we are too strong in Instagram, Facebook, and other social media to get the customer to the store. So you need to understand that online retail is totally a different ball game, which is more of imaging, cataloging, and others. Especially if you are an MBO, the moment I start doing cataloging and start uploading on the portal or on my website, the stock out happens. So all the energy goes waste. I cannot hold the stock for the online customer after a season. So our focus is always clear that if we are an offline retailer, we increase our sell-throughs. We have kept a very smart team on the floor. and things are happening. And we are growing. We are 25 stores. Soon will be 27 stores. Another 6 months will be 30 stores. 35 stores by 2024. Every year we are opening 5, 10 stores. But one more thing we have done is we have excelled ourselves in a region. We do not want to go national because we find we are smart in our region, we are understood, we are respected. That is why our sell-throughs are more, our stores are controlled, there are proper discipline maintained in the store.
Thank you, Darpan. Spoken like a true retailer. You know, if you're an offline retailer, and we do understand, if you're an offline retailer and service and customer centricity is there, and your people. So that's the secret to success, which online will not be able to, replicate. So yes, everybody has different models of growth, and I'm going to, in the last 2-3 days, I've heard a lot about, not only last 2-3 days, over a period of time, as I'm meeting more and more young people, I've heard a lot about this brand called Rare Rabbit. And, there's so much of competition in the apparel industry with a lot of global brands there. And, when you go into a mall, there's just apparel and fashion and everything else. But I've got some die-hard customers I've come across who swear by Rare Rabbit and are fans of Rare Rabbit. So now I come to Lavish, who's the business head for Rare Rabbit, and want to understand from Lavish. Lavish, how has this been possible? And I know you've talked about it a little bit yesterday, but how has it been possible in a very competitive industry that you've come, put your foot there, and then powered through with growth every year? So, I'm not going to structure as per what you should say, but I really want you to say what has created this business for you and been responsible for its growth and success.
Thank you. Okay, so yes, you actually articulated it very well that there is so much of competition and the brand is doing really well. It is gaining a lot of attention from all dimensions. There are 4 P's which we focus on. I will talk about product anyways. The first P is product, then people, then positioning of the brand, and the partners which we choose is extremely important for the overall growth. So the subject is so vast that we can talk about this for next 45-50 minutes, but we are not allowed to. However, I think there are huge risks which we take while creating product, while planning for the future path for the brand. When I say risk, it's basically that we don't follow the pre-prepared practices which is done by the industry for ages. A simple example, ground level, is that we don't do trade shows. So and the reason we don't do trade shows is that because we are too confident about our product that this product would go and the consumer would like it. And we do not involve the retail partners to come back and give us feedback that don't do this polo, isme se collar mein se button hata dijiye, ya something else or the other. So this has worked for us. We have very confidently built product. The entire organization, if you ever get the opportunity or if you come to office, you would find right from a national sales manager to a designer to a person like me, business head or a VM, everybody is occupied with discussion on product 365 days. So that's something which is working for us. There are many more things which we do, but when it comes to product, I think we are very, very relevant and very, very much to the mark what we want to deliver.
Thank you. Very precise, because it's their product which has been a winning factor, and everybody who wears Rare Rabbit, whether it's the t-shirts, shirts or jackets, you will understand why they are what they are. So phenomenal example of a local homegrown retailer having a very clear fundamental, though a little bit, as he said, we don't even ask the customer, we don't even ask the trade agent, but we know what we want to create. So that's great. That's a great attitude to have, because that shows that you know what your product is. Coming now to, the fact that, all of us who are retailers, we understand that the DNA of profitability is very important for the growth of a retailer. But now I'm going to go to a retailer where the DNA of growth truly is epitomized and kind of, is synonymous with, the DNA of growth. And I'm going to go to you. Nitesh, help us to understand Reliance footprint. And we've been talking before the session. He's got some mind-boggling things to talk about growth and how it's been done at Reliance. So really want to know from you, Nitesh, and I'm sure the room and everybody else outside will also want to know the magic that is being created, and maybe it's been created at Reliance, but really want to understand from Reliance Footwear point, the magic that's been created, the roadmap that you're charting, the growth that you are kind of doing, and the footwear field that you're conquering.
So hi, yes, as a Reliance Retail, we are growing very strongly. If I remember exit of March 18, the retail was around $5 billion. And last year, March exit was $26 billion. So almost 5x in 5 years, the company is. The footwear business, yes, is also growing. The apparel business has grown before, and now we are focused 3-4 years back on the footwear business very strongly, and especially on the private level brand. So we believe to give the customer what they want, kind of fashion in affordable pricing. So we are working on the luxury, premium, mid-premium, mid-economy, and mass. So all the section we are working. We are not trying to build something own in the luxury and premium, but yes, we have launching and keep launching our brands in the mid-premium, economy, and mass. So we have a plan to launch around 30 brands. I'm able to launch 14 brands till now. And last 3 years, we are almost doubling the business, 2x, 3x kind of business. There is a consumption in India in footwear segment. If you compare India with US, the consumption in US is 5 footwear per year per person. Go to Europe, Italy and all is just 7 footwear per person. Even Thailand and Malaysia has around 4. India has 2.1. And if I remove the thong, Hawaii chappal, is only 1. So the next 20 years, this consumption is going to rise from 2 to 5 at least, 4 or 5. So I see my job secure next 20 years for sure, right? And we as a Reliance believe in to take market share as much as possible and doing the things right. So we are trying to create a good product in a good price. And that is what giving us gaining the market share year on year. So this financial year, which is coming now, the footwear business of private level, we will able to close 3,000 crore around, which was, I will say, 4 years back was not too much. But so we are focusing on definitely the product and people. These are the 2 mantra I will say. The getting a good talent, if you ask me, is a very, very difficult these days. The young people want to gain in 5 years what maybe we have gained in 20 years. So the product and people, these 2 things keeping us ahead from the market.
I think it's the attitude that also matters, how you position yourself. And, when I was speaking to Nitesh, he was saying, for us, get the growth, everything else will follow, right? So that's the way growth is, driven when you have the confidence and the pockets to drive it. So I'm going to come to, Deepak, and, extremely interesting journey Deepak has, and he's been working across all industries. We just chatted and we found out that we belong to footwear. A lot of people belong to a footwear background many years ago. So it was just like meeting all of us, actually, so, including Kapsons. Yeah, so all of us come from a footwear background. So very interesting, Deepak, and he's also worked across consumer and, consumer, I would say, and consumer goods, and then I would say direct selling. That's something that I know about you, that you work with Tupperware and you were transforming Tupperware as well. But now coming back to Timex, Timex has shown huge growth over the last few years and with a position also to take up huge growth. So in a category that you are in Timex, again, help us to understand what's driving this growth. What is this growth and what's driving this growth in your category? Whether it's product extension or whether it's local, what is it that's driving? And I've heard a few things that you've talked about, but I really want you to tell the audience that.
Sure, thanks Shriti, and good evening everyone. If I have to pick one, what is driving the growth with us, and probably the category itself is the consumer. You have to see how the consumer is buying and how the buying pattern and the behavior is changing. So if I have to break it down now, so watches till very recently used to be time-keeping devices. Now none of us sees time on watches. Mobile do the job. But watches are growing. If you actually ask me, watches are, if I take smartwatches included in as a category, it's growing at about 45%. No other industry is growing faster than that. So it's largely that the consumer consumption has changed, and so we changed ourselves. And that is where, the growth, Shriti, we actually achieved. We grew last year about 60% over a year before. So it was largely, the consumer is taking watches as a fashion accessory rather than timekeeping device. And when consumer takes it as fashion, then they own multiple of them. Yeah? When it was timekeeping, it was one, or at best two. So that is one thing which is really driving the category, because now you want to match it with your clothing rather than just having the watch to keep time. So that's one. The second thing which is driving the category itself is, especially the Gen Z, and if I can talk about Zen Alpha now, so they want to stay connected all the time. And they are very conscious post-COVID about their health. In fact, all of us are. So a newer category, which is smartwatches, which has come up really well, and we decided to not take it as a competition, but to take it as an opportunity. So that was the second thing which changed, and we were fast enough to recognize how it is changing. And the third thing which actually changed was premiumization. You would have heard about it. People are spending more. People are indulging more because, COVID made us believe you don't know about tomorrow. So live as much as you can today. So that is where we saw that opportunity. And as a group, we don't only sell Timex, we have about 12 brands, perpetual licenses, which include brands like Versace and Ferragamo on the luxury segment. And in fashion, we have Guess, GC, Nautica, Adidas Originals, and many others. So we realized sooner than others that the consumer is going to graduate to higher price point, spend more on the category, and that is where we put our money on. So these three factors, one is how the consumer is taking watches as a category. It's more like a fashion, and the category is increasing because the ownership of watches is increasing. Second is smartwatches. People, very soon you will see this trend, rather two trends may come very soon in our category, is that people wearing two watches. Yeah, I do see it happening many places. But that's not the optimum solution for the problem. The biggest innovation which will happen very soon is a watch which looks like analog, but have functionality of a smartwatch. Yeah, so we are working on that. So these three things genuinely worked. The category, expanded beyond ownership of one watch. Smartwatches gave an opportunity to cater to newer consumers who never, experienced a watch. I'm talking about the younger lot. And then a bit more evolved, started spending a lot of money on the category and started spending and buying costlier watches, and that is where we play. So these three things put together gave us the growth which we have, Shriti.
Thanks, and I'm going to come back to you for the next question as well. So growth and then profitability, right? So very interesting question for you because, you've talked about a few things, when we were talking about. How have you really, and I'm going to talk about COVID and the last 2 years. And of course, there's massive growth. But really at the back of the growth is, how have you really structured your financial planning? And we talked about a few things that you've already done. And how have you focused on those areas which are giving you higher margins? And what kinds of business structure have you evolved to give you higher margins and more profitable business? Because at the end of the day, if the growth is without profitability, it's not growth. So just wanted to hear about that.
Sure. So maybe when I spoke about 60% growth, our profitability actually was 9 times. So it's not growth or profitability you have to choose. You can actually have a sustainable business which is hugely profitable. So if I have to break it down into two, I would say the whole business depends on supply chain on one side and value chain on the other side. There's nothing else in business. If you can manage these two well, you can't go wrong. You absolutely can't go wrong. So if I have to go in more detail, so supply chain is, your gross margin. Your cost of manufacturing. How do you bring efficiency in your supply chain is by, your component manufacturers. How do you innovate with them and see how we can get the same product at a cheaper price? Because, we don't want to disturb the consumer value proposition. That's most of the time we go wrong. When we are under pressure of foreign exchange inflation, we increase the prices, regardless of saying, how the consumer will take it. So that's the last thing to do. So you work on the supply chain. So what we did was we sat down with all our suppliers, the component manufacturers. Watch needs a lot of components, domestic and international. Sat with them, showed them the path on growth, we'll be taking about 2 times than what they were. And then went on innovation. Can we use copper in place of, say, steel without impacting the experience and the longevity? So we reduced the input cost. And on the other side, we worked on higher production from the same infrastructure. So when you do that, your per watch cost reduces and reduced for us by about 40%. So we managed the supply chain there. And then we came to the value chain. So, Darpan was mentioning, he's a retailer par excellence. But the challenge is, you have to be where the consumer is. Yeah? Maybe Darpan will give a offline retailer will give one experience and, consumption, consumer consumption, but you need to be everywhere. So what we did was, we chose our channels to ensure there are channels which are on the value chain, which have a very high cost of sales. And if that is the growth coming from, you'll never be profitable. So you'll have to choose which are the channels. You still have to be there because you have to serve the consumer in wherever they buy. So we worked on the channel mix and saw that the growth comes from channels which have lowest cost of sales. Yeah? And then once you have done that, automatically whatever margins you have generated, it will flow to your bottom line. On the restructuring and the cost structure, I feel as the topic itself says, the DNA of profitability is growth. So if you have failed on all account, of finding the next growth or next opportunity, how you can reach to newer consumer, how you can increase your business, then only we should reach there. So even during COVID, I think we didn't do that kind of step because it has long-term implication on the entire system. So it's more important to be profitable is to have higher top line because your cost structure doesn't increase in the same proportion. So I think as a combination of these 3 things, managing your supply chain, ensuring you have a good channel mix, your value chain is right, and you're working for the consumer, not for the conduit. So normally what we do, Shriti, is we give more margins to the conduit. When I say conduit, it's the channel partners. And then you take away the value generation which you're doing for the consumer. So we said, okay, we all are conduits. The the moment of truth is the consumer. And that is where we reviewed all those value chains, make them leaner while still serving the consumer at the same value equation and delivering higher profitability to the bottom without taking a step of cost cutting or say restructuring. Cost optimization everybody does, and we need not wait for COVID to do that, very frankly. If you don't do cost optimization anyway, whatever you do will not work. So that's what worked for us.
Thank you. And really that's important as retailers and in a market like India, while we all know and understand that cost structures are very important, and I was attending the previous session which was on profitability itself and how to build capabilities. But what's also very important in a market like India is to keep your mind on the growth and how to get growth rather than on cutting costs. But then it's very important perspective for everybody to know that one does follow the other, but you have to make the right decisions, and which Deepak has just said, the right channel structure, the right approach towards consumer, the right approach towards growth, and the right bottom line will follow. So coming to you, Dhiraj, Campus Sutra, again, has done what it has done for the last many years, I would say 7 to 10 years, right? Yes. 10 years, without borrowing any funds from outside. And that growth has been at the back of own capital, plowing back into the business, when a cash flow coming back into the business. So can you just help to this room to understand how's it been possible for a D2C company which is built around e-commerce to generate money from the year one, to keep growing with internal accruals and still be successful even till date?
So I think the first thing is, we are very clear that non-profitable growth is not for us, right? So any discussion जिसमें ऐसा आता है कि बाद में पैसा बनेगा, तो वो हमारे लिए option ही नहीं है. So just having that thought is like liberating, very honestly, right? Otherwise you get into a lot of these loop which are non-fruitful. यदि मुझे पता है कि मैं पैसा बनाऊंगा तभी मैं grow करूंगा तभी मेरा business चलेगा, तो फिर anything that does not contribute to that you can just forget about it, right? So be it marketing, be it product development, be it channel development, anything that is not making money for me year on year is not for me. We are very clear about that. That's one. Second, what we have seen in D2C and startups is there's a lot of Excel sheet planning, right? So, I started my career with Walmart. And we had a goal, which was like, I think 60,000 crore hum 10 saal mein karenge. For 5 years, that business kept on, doing certain numbers. That 60,000 ka number stayed constant, but the year kept changing. So when I started my business, I was very clear about that. We wanted to create a structure which can absorb growth and also downturn. तो हमारा कुछ भी एक्सेल शीट प्लानिंग नहीं होता है कि नेक्स्ट ईयर इस साल मैं 100 करोड़ कर रहा हूँ तो मुझे नेक्स्ट ईयर 200 करोड़ करना है उसके हिसाब से आई स्टार्ट हायरिंग पीपल आई स्टार्ट सेटिंग अप इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर दैट्स नॉट हाउ वी वर्क आवर एंटायर एफर्ट ओवर द लास्ट 8 years has been in terms of creating a structure which is geared for growth. So, for example, when COVID came, right, we had like crazy growth. And in fashion, it is difficult. It is easy to do it in, say, cosmetics and all because the number of SKUs are less. But we were able to kind of, capitalize on that growth because we have created a structure which can handle that growth. When we started our business with a 400 square feet office. And I remember this was about 2014. And we had got about 12,000 orders in a day, right? And that time we used to do about 1,000, 1,200. But हमने वो 12,000 orders भी किए. So it is that culture and that structure that has been created which is geared for growth. कि यदि numbers आ रहे हैं, तो whatever is required to make sure that the numbers happen, you do it. But profitability anyways is not. So we say that Campus Sutra is a system. It is not a company, it is not a brand. It is a system जिसमें X input जाता है, Y output आता है. And the entire effort has been to create that system जिसमें Y output is at least 2x or 3x better than the industry. So industry में यदि X जाके 1.2x आ रहा है, तो Campus Sutra system में वो X जाके 1.6x आना चाहिए. So that's what Campus Sutra is all about.
So that's really the example of how this entrepreneur is turbocharging his growth. So very well said, Dhiraj. Very impressive. And I think a lot of us have to learn from you the way you've kind of built this system, churning out growth. X dal ke Y nikalta hai. So I'm going to come to you, Darpan. And a lot of people have talked about a lot of things. From you, again, talking about capacity building, talking about capability building. Retail is all about people. We don't have, though he's built a lot of machinery, but actually for physical retailers like us, it's about people, right? It's our own people and it's people in the shop floor who delight the consumer and who serve the consumer. If personal shop floor khush nahi hai, to aaj ki sale nahi hogi, right? So from your side, as you have said that you have built this retail step by step, learned everything one by one. How important are people in this growth strategy of yours? How have people contributed to your growth? What kind of investments, and I don't mean by financial investment, but what kind of investments are you putting in people, and how are you really using people as part of your growth?
Okay. Before I give an answer to that, I wanted to clear two more things. If you are a brand, you are not online, you are doing a wrong thing. Because if you are a brand, you have the inventory or the design or the SKU at the inception level. You have enough time to do catalog. And as soon as it becomes for production, you are live. Second is, in regard to watches, they have, fashion industry changes very fast. So every season, things changes. Watches probably 2-3 seasons or 4 seasons remains the same. So watches business again, and their SKU price is high. You do not sell watch for 300, 400 or 500 rupees, but fashion industry, 800 is the maximum online, maximum sales are on 800 rupees. So those are the things, you have to see what business you are, whether you can be in offline and online both. As an MBO, I said offline, if you're an offline guy, getting online is a risky proposition. Third is, there's one thing which says that if you cannot afford skill, you cannot hire people who are experienced and all those things. You have to create one. So I heard in one of the images this thing also, that if you are a new entrepreneur and if you hire somebody who is withdrawing more salary than you yourself earning, you are not doing the right thing. So it's better to start developing a mid-level management yourself, train the people, and they will remain with you, maybe not for a longer period of time, but shorter period of time, but that will be fruitful. We are thankful to this thing that we have people who have joined me 33 years back they are still with me. Although 2 or 3 of them, many of them has passed away also. But the key people who are now running the business, average is more than 15 years in this organization. None of our family member actually has to worry whether the stores are opening or not, or closing in time or not, whether the cash is going in the bank or not. It's all flawless system. All of us enjoying the retail in a proper manner. We have our holidays. Now our head offices closes every 3 months. We close for 4 to 5 years, long holidays. Instead of 1 2 Saturdays, we say, let's have long holidays. They are more enjoyable. The staff is happy about it.
Thank you, Darpan. Very, very inspiring. Nitesh, and you've talked about some phenomenal growth, like XXX. Handling that growth, understanding how that growth is going to be, tracked. And especially post-COVID, when a lot of things have just, kind of systems have been busted and we have to recreate everything. In a large organization like Reliance Footprints and with your large private label, I'm again going to come back to data and technology. So how have you used data and technology to drive your growth, to track your growth, and to multiply your growth?
So one of thing, technology gives us the consumer behavior, to read consumer behavior, especially after COVID. Suddenly we realized that the same consumer who was buying in Bangalore last 10 years, we picked up his number or his shopping in the Belgaum, Hubli or smaller places. Suddenly we realized that people are moved from bigger city to a smaller city. And we pushed out all the expansion to those cities where I felt that consumers are moving. This helped us. We also understand with technology that the certain customer how is the buying behavior, what is the bill value they buy. They come into only USS, or when we send a message of fresh is already in a store, come and shop. So some customer comes and buy only with the freshness when freshness is in the store. So this is all information we get. Also, technology helped us to create a new product. When COVID started, people were not going out. Suddenly we realized that being healthy is a trend. And shoes were suddenly, people were talking that coronavirus is moving with the shoes and all. So washable shoes came in picture, and immediately we launched washable shoes. We talked about that. We said this can be washable in the washing machine with the soap and everything. We launched a lot of health-related product in the market, where the walking, training, this all kind of product become very, very important in the market. And we have got growth through those kind of product in the market. So this is...
Thanks. So basically using technology to track customer and to build innovation. So thank you very much. Lavish, I'm going to come to you, and we talked about, a lot of things related to, a bootstrap entrepreneur's mindset, how to grow growth at the back of fashion and category extension, how to grow value footwear. And I'm going to come to you asking you that, in any organization, which is an organization looking for growth, you may have the right product, just the right product, the right people, the right, the right structure to go for the business. But then what are the things that you think are detrimental to growth or may challenge your growth as Rare Rabbit?
So, you know what, let me give you an example, which I actually, faced it, the real thing. We were talking about it, and I say, we should share aap beeti, that what exactly has worked for, one of the organization, it did not work for other one. So I was working with this, one of the organization which used to deal with black and brown footwear. And the organization was very small, let's say about 35, 37 stores. And, we were in the growing stage, 4 or 5 years of good business. And I come from a footwear background, so I understand how the sales are done and how retail business is conducted, season to season. So whenever, every year when there is summer, we used to keep stores open till late. Let's say in Puma, if Gaurav Sachdeva is here, he would actually agree with me. But in this organization, when I came in, the store used to get shut by 8:45, 9. And I went to the management and I said that, why don't we keep the store open till 10 o'clock or 10:30? And, this will give us additional 2-3 bills per day and probably we'll do 15-17% more business than expected. And the CEO said, you know what, if you keep the store open for 1 hour, what would be the electricity? What would be petty cash expenses? How would you manage to send the people home, etc., etc.? So make a report on that and come back to me that what kind of business you will grow versus what kind of expenses you will occur on the, to the organization. I submitted that report. It went to Director 1, Director 2, Director 3, CEO, and then it came back to me with the approval. By the time it was approval, it was June end and monsoon started. So the example here, or the point here is that, a lot of time, there are smaller organizations which can grow very well, but they want to work like bigger organization or, enterprises like Tata or Reliance. Now, what goes wrong here is that I gave this example to that management specifically that, you have a Mini Cooper body and you're keeping a truck's engine inside, not run or, go fast. So you have to really be flexible, adopt to new ideas, and then look at growth. The growth will come to you. So I think.
Thanks, Lavish. I think, what we can, it's very important for all of us as retailers is that, speed, agility, flexibility, intrepidness, and really innovation all the time. So process is good for the sake of, making sure you have good controls, but too much of process kills retail also. Retail is with the mind and the heart, both of them. It's a science and an art. So it's very important for us to keep that part growing. So as a final, how are we doing on time, Anish? Over? Okay. Give me. Oh, I think you gave too much time to the previous one. I was standing like 15 minutes at the back. Okay, so I'm just going to, open it to the audience then, and ask if anybody has questions from this very, very, very dynamic bunch of retailers here. So yeah.
Campus Sutra and Rare Rabbit, you guys operate on totally different spectrum in terms of price point. It's the same with the quality as well. So I just want to ask just one basic question. Your return percentages are like how do you maintain it? How do you control that? That is one. And the second, yeah. So that's
So how do you control the returns?
How do you control the returns?
So, what do you think is the D2C on the website, on our website, right? What do you think is the return percentage for Campus Sutra? Just take a guess. It's 7%. Yeah. So, it's quality is not always related to price, right? Like he was talking about, what you do at the back end, what you do with your supply chain, your sourcing, that also determines the cost. So just to give you an example, I'm a very, very big fan of DMart, right? And if you compare DMart to a high-end store, you'll find that the quality of the product or the experience is not very different. It is the same, but the price points are lower. It's not cheap, but it is about giving value to the customer. So many times I know we are wired to think that quality and price are interrelated, but not necessarily, right? You have a category of brands or a category of players who might be playing on price because of quality, but it did not be the case. As I said, 7% returns for Campus Sutra on D2C.
So returns controlled by quality actually. So
See, returns are actually still a big challenge for us. However, we have created different points of supply so that it can be faster and easier to the consumer. Quality is never an issue. So having said that, when we started online, we had very high rate of 30-35%, as you mentioned, sir. But right now, I think we have reduced it by 10-12% by only, focusing on Omni and focusing on different ways of doing the orders, which is COD, additional, discount, and etc., etc. So having said that, I think the key point here is having many supply chain points which can provide the goods within 12 to 24 hours would reduce your returns. So that is what has helped us.
I'll just add on one thing. Everybody is talking about the return in the last session also. Return is actually a profitable business if you know how to do it well. I run a marketplace business for many brands. SPF claim is what the portal has, which is Seller Protection Fund. You raise your this thing with a video and all those things. You easily get 80 to 90% of the product cost what you have sold on this. So return is not a worry on online.
Thanks, Darpan. Yeah.
Yeah, probably, of course, the question was not for me, but I feel show the product as it is. Don't beautify it. I think that's one of the biggest thing which can work in your favor. When you show it more magnified and beautify it, don't use cosmetics to it, and your return rate would be under control. Of course, it will still remain high. So it's listing, how you list it, A+ listing, provide as much detail you can provide on the product, give the dimensions, and show as it is. I think that works normally in our favor. Otherwise, watches works at about 30% returns. And problem with watches is once they come back, it has scratches. You can't sell it again. So it's important to ensure that you show what you are and don't use much of cosmetics on your pictures. Yeah, so that helps.
Thanks, Deepak. That's really important because 30% return, I don't know, in a category. Okay, one more question, please. The lady there.
Hi, my question is for Mr. Lavish Soni. So you mentioned that one of the factors that has really led to Rare Rabbit's success has been being experimental and taking risks. So I was wondering, do you have any advice for young aspirational brands on balancing taking risks versus following what's already been done and not reinventing the wheel?
Sorry, your question is that do I have any advice for
young aspirational brands?
Yes, of course. In order to not to follow the current, what was it?
Yeah, so I keep getting advice on, okay, don't be too experimental. You already know what's working, do that. Versus being experimental and innovative.
Okay, yeah. So there is a very fine line between being creative, being experimental, and being disruptive and creating disturbance within the organization. Right? The first example of footwear which I gave you, I mean, the entire audience, that was creating disturbance in the organization where you can grow but you were not allowed to grow by your processes. The second thing is that being confident, when 100 of you in the organization collectively believe in something, then you will find a way to do something, magical out of it, literally. The product is the answer, people and positioning, just simple example, don't regret when you say no. We have about 100 stores. Developers will not be very happy by this statement, but then to do these 100 stores, I have rejected 450 stores in last 7 years. However, it took about 3 years, about 15 presentations to each and every mall to convince the developer that this is the brand and this is where it sits. So, the self-confidence, collective belief of the organization works for you, and whatever collective beliefs you have, go for it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you very much to everybody. It's a very lively, actually very topical and lively topic. Next time, give us more time.
I did. I gave you more than any other panel.
Oh, okay, really. Thank you so much. Thank you.